Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I've got a fabulous project for you today that is the ultimate summer vibe, which are making these gorgeous flower components. It will be made out of wire, and we are going to string it up right on to the 3 needle silver silk chain. This project is super easy. Miss Danielle Wicks, who is a design genius, came up with the project idea, and I'm so happy to teach it. It is so easy to put together. The materials are only a few things that you probably have already in your bead stash, and a really innovative and fun and dainty use of the 3 needle chain, which I'm just glowing. So I'm going to pan over to my desk here, and we are just going to go right into the project using or talking about the tools first. So I have got a pair of chain nose pliers. These are from a company called Wubbers. And let me find my camera here. Sorry about that. Wubbers is a reputable, amazing tool company that has high quality tools, and they're extremely strong. I've had these for quite a number of years, and they still continue to look beautiful through today. So again, that's the chain nose pliers. I have got my round nose pliers on the go here as well. And then I've got a pair of cutters that look like this. And the cutters are Lindstrom brand. They are high quality. They cut through almost anything. I've abused these way too much than I care to admit. And they're going to be great for using for the 3 needle chain as well as the craft wire. So the chain is essentially made with craft wire too. Of course, you might have known that already. So it works perfectly across the board. Let's talk about the materials. First, you will need some 3 needle chain. This is the one of the types of silver silk lines that I carry in the store that I make. And it uses wire that's as thin as human hair and knits it into a consistently beautifully knitted chain. It's absolutely stunning. It's free flowing. It's got a really great body to it. And this particular diameter, which is about 1 millimeter, maybe 1.5, it's great for stringing up right onto beads. And so you can use beads that have a 1 millimeter or larger hole. So typically you could think about like size 8 seed beads has that. And you can also cut the chain without it fraying, which is kind of really cool, especially if you're just needing small snippets. For example, the earrings that we'll be making, we'll just need a smaller length of it, and so we can cut it up and not worry about it falling apart. So I recommend having a 25-inch length, only because we'll be using part of it for our earrings and part of it for our necklace. If you're just wanting to make the earrings, you could probably get away with between 6 and 8 inches, just depending on the length that you want your earrings to be. Okay, you will also need some cord caps that look like this. These are SilverSilk brand and are plated in the same metal plating that all of my other findings are. This is a 5-layered plating process, which means that these end caps, they're going to sustain over time very well, and they are tarnish resistant. I have 6 different colors that I like to carry. So it sort of matches with any chain, any season, any style that you might be going for. And you can rest assured that these will last over time. They have a brass base metal, which means that they're extremely strong and really, really sturdy. And it's not going to like crimp on you or, scar very easily. And then over that are the 5 layers of plating that I talked about. So I recommend having these. They're very high quality. They do have a about 2 millimeter sized hole, which is perfect for adding multiple chain links into. You can add up to 3 very comfortably, and you can add 4 if you're really nice to the chain. So you'll need about 4 of those total. Next, you will need some jump rings, which are also from the SilverSilk brand. Now, the only thing that these guys are missing is the logo imprint, but really, they're so small, the jump rings, like where would you even put it? But I can definitely tell you that these have the same plating process as well, and they're very high quality jump rings. You get 10 in a set, and you'll just need 4 for this project. All right, you will need a lobster claw clasp and some earring wire. So I've got these right here on hand, also within the SilverSilk family of findings. And I just have those out ready on the go. Usually I don't have a clasp. Boy, are you guys lucky today. Alrighty. Looks like we have our craft wire up next. Let me grab this. There we go. And this craft wire is 22. No, this one is the 24 gauge craft wire. And you will need about 10 inches of it. Now, if you're going to make the other component, which we will be, you might need a little bit more. So let's just say between 10 and 15 inches, just depending on how much jewelry you want to make. I have it here in silver, and my preferred brand is the Softlex Craft Wire, by the way, which let me go ahead and show you what the label looks like. I highly recommend theirs. It is extremely soft and easy to use. It is tarnish resistant, and it is a very reputable company of craft wire to use. So definitely check them out. You will also need 22 gauge. So I kind of went out of order according to the list here, but that's all right. And I just have about 5 or so inches of that. The instructions say 6, so this is what that is. And finally, let's talk about the gemstones, because there is some options here. So here I've got 6mm that I'm working with of some gemstones that are beautifully colored and are faceted. And I've got some complementary gemstones in the 4mm. Now, the ratio for this project is a 5-3 or 3-5. And so if you're talking a smaller flower that you'd like to make, you would simply switch to either 5mm of the big size and 3mm of the smaller size. So that way, the beads that are surrounding the flower or make the flower petals are very tailored to the larger bead that we'll be using. Everything sort of just will sit correctly in place. So just a little note for you guys, a little tip. I'm going to go for the bigger flowers and make the 4 and 6mm work for me. So that's it for the materials. So I think now we can go ahead and get to our designing. The first thing we're going to do is make our components, and specifically the connectors, which will need our 6mm bead and our wire. So the wire is a little bit bent. I'm just going to grab my nylon jaw pliers and kind of give it a nice straight working wire here. Get it to be nice and straight for me. And I'm going to make a simple loop on one end. You can go into your round nose pliers and mark wherever you would like your loops to be. For consistency especially, I sort of just eyeball these to be about maybe 3 to 4mm of a size loop. And so I have sort of gotten to the habit of using the third in of my pliers. And so you'll probably want to be about right there, just depending on which brand of pliers you have. They're all different sizes. If you really want to be precise, you can get the step loop pliers or the right loop pliers. Hopefully I said those brands correctly. And those look like this. The loop right pliers. I did not say that correctly. But these have specific measurements that are very handy. And again, it just is your comfort level. I'm very used to using my standard pair of round nose pliers. And then sometimes I like to cheat and use these for bail making. So Just something to kind of consider whenever you're really into, consistency of loops. But I'm just going to turn my wire in until the end of my wire touches the stem. It's not quite touching yet, but I can always insert back in and go back in and tweak accordingly. So now I've got this really great P-shaped loop, and I'm going to go in with the tip of my pliers and break the neck, which means that I'm just turning it ever so slightly toward me so that my loop becomes centered. Once I've done that, I can string on my bead, and I'm going to do the same thing to the other side, but there's one step required before that. I'm going to actually bend the wire right up against the bead here. Okay, once I've done that, I can trim off to where I only have about a half inch, maybe a little bit more than a half inch of wire left. Once I've done that, I can go back into my pliers, kind of find the same spot on my round nose and begin to turn the wire in. And it should be about the same size as my other loop that I've just made. Now, once I've done that, the thing I want to make sure is that my wires are, or my loops, sorry, are facing the same direction. So grab your chain nose pliers and your round nose pliers and just flip those loops to be in the same spot. They both should be facing up, in other words. Okay, once I've done that, I'm on to step number 2. I'm going to grab my 5 inches of 24 gauge wire. So I'm going to have to cut this down to about right here. And the idea here is to string on 4 of my smaller beads. So let's see if we can do this. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then I'm just going to go through the loop here. Doesn't matter if it's the top or the bottom, it's going to fall down anyway. And I'm going to make sure that I have about an inch of wire up here to work with. If there's a little more, that's okay. But the idea here is to have enough for making a loop there at the top, which you'll see what we get into here in a little bit. So once I've done this, we're going to move on to step number 3, which is passing our tail wire over here through the bottom loop. Okay, there we go. So you could see that half of our flower is already finished. And we can move on to step number 4, which is grabbing 4 more of our beads. This, by the way, is a great use of orphan beads. I know that many of us have a little stash in our Ziploc somewhere in our bead hoarding to use up some of these smaller beads. Okay, we're going to string on 4 more, and we're going to go through that top loop so that the wires crisscross inside of that loop. Now, if you made your loop about that 3 or 4 millimeter mark, it is going to sit perfectly between those beads. Alrighty. So we've basically went ahead and completed this too. We brought our wire ends together. We just want to make sure it's nice and tight and that all the beads are just nicely kept in place there. Isn't that great? That flower is already formed. All right. So this step does require a little bit of maneuvering because we're going to be making a a wire wrap loop with both of our pieces of wire all at once. So fear not, I'm going to help you work through this. We're going to grab our chain nose pliers. Okay. And actually, you know what? I'm gonna grab my round or my chain nose pliers first and then my round nose. I'm going to go ahead and bend both wires away from me. This little extra bit that I've kept as part of the neck, that's there so that we can wrap the rest of the wire around the stem efficiently. But now I can go in, grab both wires with my round nose pliers, bring them back toward me. Okay, I'm gonna carefully switch sides here and complete my loop. So it should look something like that. It's got a little bit of a long neck, but that's okay. We could definitely work with that. All right, I'm going to grab both loops with my chain nose pliers, and I'm going to go ahead and just wire wrap the rest of that around the stem there. Depending on where you were positioned in your chain nose pliers when we grabbed both wires, that's the size that your neck will be. So mine's a little bit on the long side, which isn't necessarily the wrong answer for this or, the wrong way to go about it. Um, it's just that the further you are on the tip of your pliers, the shorter that neck will be. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and trim off those two pieces, and I'm going to tuck any little pieces of wire that might be poking out with my chain nose pliers. Very easy stuff here. You can always go back and adjust the loop if you want to, make it more round. And that is our little flower component. Very cute, right? So at this point, we can go ahead and assemble our earring. So I'm going to grab some of my 3-needle chain, and I'm going to kind of give myself a measure of an earring here. I want mine to be a little bit on the smaller side. So I'm going to cut about 3 inches, give or take. I could really go by the book and grab my ruler and all that stuff, but I think I'm just going to go visually off what I feel works for an earring for me. So I'm going to cut 2 of those, in fact. And we'll need to assemble another flower together for completing our set here. But I wanted to walk you through one complete earring at least first. So what I'm also going to do is grab a jump ring, and I'm going to go ahead and attach my little flower component to the jump ring. This also, by the way, makes an adorable little charm. So you can imagine making a bracelet design with multi strands of the 3-needle chain, and then maybe hanging this off as a little charm on it. That'd be very cute. Okay, and you don't have to necessarily put your 3-needle chain on. You can actually string right through it. But I'm going to grab my finding necks, those little handy little caps there, and you can now kind of imagine that this will go into our finding just like that, and that's going to assemble quite beautifully together. So the idea here is to grab the Loctite glue. Hopefully this didn't completely dry over. I'm going to pull the end cap out just a little bit and kind of dab on some glue here. Oh, yay, it does still have some. And once I've sort of done that, I'm just going to actually brush this on, is to insert it right back in. And you're going to allow probably about 30 minutes to be on the safe side to have this dry. And then after that, you can string on your earring hook and you'll have this beautiful earring on the go. So while that's drying, why don't we create our second component, which is the horseshoe. And then I will complete the second earring off camera, but I will photograph it for you guys. And I'll even put in the SilverSilk Silkies Facebook group, which you guys should join in. It's our Facebook community of crafty individuals that enjoy using SilverSilk. And I love interacting with the group. It's our community, our tribe for silver silking. So I highly recommend that you guys come up and join. All right, so we went ahead and completed step 7 because I glued everything in. And let's go back to the beginning now because we're going to make that little horseshoe component for our necklace. I'm going to go and show you the photo once again. And if you'll pan over your vision to the necklace design, you could see that it's sort of a half flower, hence the name horseshoe. So here, we're sort of going to be repeating some of the same steps up to a certain point. So let me clear out the board here and let's go back to our wire. So step 1's sort of the same again. We will actually be using got a slight delay on my camera there. Sorry, hang on just a second. There we go. Little bit of a delay. Okay, I think we're good now. I am going to grab my my 22 gauge wire. It's like it's hard to craft sometimes whenever I'm like talking and explaining stuff as thoroughly as I possibly can. So I'll make my 3mm loop and I'm going to break the neck, as we sort of talked about earlier, so that it looks like this. Oh, I'm waiting for the camera to catch up. I'm not sure what's causing the delay, but quite all right. Anyway, I'll just keep continuing. It'll be a little bit off sync, but that's okay. All right, I am now stringing on my bead, and I'm going to do the same exact thing. I'm going to bend that wire as I did earlier, come back, trim to be about a little bit over a 1/2 inch. Grab my round nose pliers again and go ahead and create your loop. Okay, you'll want to grab both pliers once again, make sure those loops are facing the same direction. Luckily, the wire is soft enough so I could just use my fingers, which is great. And then I'm going to grab some more of that 24 gauge wire. Go ahead and string on 4 beads. And pass it through the top loop. And I'm going to go ahead and pass it through the bottom loop. So you'll basically have 1/2 of your flower put together. And the idea here is that we will actually add beads on top. So I can go ahead and kind of fast forward as we're doing this. We're completing step 2 in here of me just passing that through the loop. And after that, you should have basically the beginning of your horseshoe flower. So it's at this stage that we will be adding in some more beads. So we're going to do 1 bead on either side. Okay, there we go. Do 1 more. On there. And the next step involves making some some wire wrap loops at the top. Now, what you can do is, because I have a feeling that I'm going to be dropping beads everywhere, I'm just going to take the 1 bead off the one side and make the loop first, and then I'll move to the other side after I complete this 1 beaded wire wrap. So again, we'll just do what we did earlier. We will use our chain nose pliers to create our neck. Take this wire around to the back side once you've swapped places in your pliers, and then go ahead and wire wrap the neck, about maybe 3 times. 2 or 3 times. 4. 2 or 4. Between 2 to 4 times. Okay, trim off the edge. And it should not have anything sticking out of it, which is great. One thing I forgot to mention is to make sure that your loop is going to be big enough to pass the 3 needle through. So I recommend probably about anywhere from 2 to 4 millimeters of a size loop is going to be pretty sufficient. So, okay, back to stringing on this side. And we will go ahead and complete our loop making. Okay, let's swap pliers here. And I'm just gonna go ahead and wrap this about 3 times. And trim it. Perfect. So now I've got this really smart little component, horseshoe flower, that I can take some 3 needle chain and string it right through those holes. All right, so we have completed basically step 5 here. And really, it's just a matter of stringing it on at the end once we complete all the wire wrapping and stuff. So, I get for my camera here to catch up with me. Again, sorry about the delay there. Not sure what's happening, but that's okay. I can talk to you guys at the same time. Um, all right. There we go. We've got the stuff all wire wrapped, ready to go. Perfection. Okay, so the next step would be to just decide on what variations you want to do. You can add on multiple components or you can do a single component. The amount of daintiness or the amount of full necklace, big extravagant design is totally up to you. And between that and the earrings, I think we have a pretty stellar design. So I'm going to flip it back around to the actual design of the piece and flip my little cameras around and bring it back to me. And I just want to say thank you guys so much for tuning into this wonderful tutorial. Um, I just am so thankful for the brain behind the design, which is Danielle Wicks. And I invite you guys to join us over on Instagram and follow us there. We've got an incredible library of designs, and we're adding in a lot more of the like quick instant tutorials that you guys can kind of pan through the different photos and see how the process is behind the scenes, which is extremely cool. You can also, again, follow our community, the SilverSilk Silkies Facebook group. You can do your shopping at silversilkonline.com. And finally, if you enjoyed the content of this video and want to support the channel, do give this video a giant thumbs up. And be sure to destroy and hit that subscribe button. I guess you can't really destroy it because then you can't subscribe, so don't do that. Just hit the subscribe button. It'll be fine. And if you enjoy all the videos up here in the channel as well, you can definitely share it with your friends out there in the creative world. Thank you guys again so much, and I will see you at the next tutorial. Bye.